Prince Harry is indeed facing deportation from the U.S., and today is the trial that could seal his fate. We brought in lawyer John Witherspoon to break it down for us. Welcome to Popcorn Palace. I am Andy Signor. We have a special guest today and big news. We will be covering this trial later today with the Heritage Foundation versus Homeland Security. We're going to try our damnedest to get in there, and I got to thank John Witherspoon, who is here with us now, attorney at law. Thank you, John, for being here. How are you doing?
I'm good, Andy. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. We asked for help, people in the D.C. area, and you're a lawyer out in the D.C. area who reached out, and you are going to try your damnedest to get into this hearing later today with the Heritage Foundation versus Homeland Security, which then is the fate of Prince Harry and his potential deportation. I wanted to make sure you guys know we will be live later today covering that. The hearing starts around 2:30. I figured we'll go live around 3 or 3:30. We should know at that point whether John got in, and then we'll be able to do a little bit of a pre-show, talk about things, and then when John is out of the courtroom, we will be live here to break down what we've learned from that case. So you're not going to miss later today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell. Get ready. We'll have in fact, I'll try to put a little video at the end so you know to get alerted when we're live. And hopefully give you this insight. So John, first of all, thank you. I appreciate you trying to do this. And thank you for meeting up earlier so we could talk about just sort of what to expect today. So I want to defer to you. So as we talked about yesterday, this is a big deal. And there is definitely must be a feeling of worry from Prince Harry that it is possible that something could be revealed here in this Heritage Foundation lawsuit, and he may have to reveal his forms and see if he lied on them. And the latest we heard yesterday, as I was speculating, I was curious your legal insight. And I know you're not an immigration attorney, you're not Harry's attorney, you're not involved, but you are a lawyer. And I was curious your take on this latest update, which is the GMA interview. They've now entered that into their documents as well, that the judge is now reading and we'll talk about. But this GMA interview is getting dragged in this lawsuit. Do you feel like the GMA interview could affect this hearing in Prince Harry's case? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's an interesting question. My initial take on it, and this could change when we get into the courtroom tomorrow, but
tonight we pre-taped this tonight.
Yeah, later on.
Everybody.
When we get into the courtroom. My take on that is that it's just the attorneys for Heritage being proactive, doing the right thing, leaving no stone unturned, just picking up another weapon that they can use to tell the Judge Nichols, hey, this guy is still at it. There's still things that are going on that are relevant potentially to his immigration status. The big thing, I think, is that he is actually talking about it. I have felt all along with a lot of other people, that Prince Harry gets terrible legal advice. He gets terrible PR advice. And this is another example of him talking about something that he really ought not be talking about, given the fact that there's pending litigation in federal court about his immigration status.
Yeah, it was kind of an innocent question, it seemed, on GMA, but from what I gathered and what I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, by talking about it, he's revealing more about his private information, which then makes it less private, which then opens up potential for them to open up public records. Was my suspicion correct?
Yes, I would say that's correct. Normally, immigration files, all the paperwork that you do when you're on an airplane that you turn into the immigration and customs officers when you get to the airport, or in Harry's case, the information that he shared with a consular officer at a U.S. embassy, but presumably in London, to get a visa to come into the United States. He's not here on a tourist visa. That's one thing that's probably fairly certain because they have limited duration. And if he's going to be married and living in California, a tourist visa is not going to cut it for him. So he's here on some sort of a more complicated visa. And, it could be a work visa or it could be a different type of visa. We don't know. And that's the information that DHS, Department of Homeland Security, has said is confidential, and there is court precedent for keeping that information confidential. However, he has done a number of things, again, in my view, not wise moves on his part to write the book and to be as specific in the book as he has been about all kinds of things that we all know about: frostbite, hand cream, the list goes on, and then most notably drug use. And I would point out as well, it's not just the book where he's talked about drug use. He talked about it on 60 Minutes. He has talked about it in other forums as well. So he really is his own worst enemy in this regard, because the more he talks about it, the easier it is for Heritage Foundation to come along and say, look, this guy doesn't even want any privacy. And of course, South Park, really skewered him and Meghan for that. But
Yeah.
It makes it very, very easy. As I said, he's his own worst enemy. And if he would just be quiet, and not write tell-all books that are beyond tell-all books, and not talk about this stuff with the press, and not make random statements on Good Morning America, it'd be a lot easier. It would be basically an open and shut case. The other angle on this is that Heritage Foundation is saying, look, because he is such a high-profile figure, there is a public interest in finding out what has been going on with Prince Harry. Prince Harry has been very outspoken, again, about things that he probably should not have talked about, not the least of which is his comments on the First Amendment, where he has said that the First Amendment is bonkers in his armchair viewpoint. The Heritage Foundation, of all parties, puts a huge premium on the First Amendment. One of the reasons the First Amendment is so important, that's why they made it first among all the amendments, because it really has some gravitas to it. And for him to talk about how much he thinks the First Amendment is foolish, he almost painted a target on his chest for an organization like Heritage to come along and say, you know what, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into your comments and your background and why you're here and so forth. The Heritage Foundation really, as well, is very interested, not so much in Prince Harry, but in what the Biden administration, Department of Homeland Security, has done with respect to his application, because there's only really two things that could be going on here. Number one, he lied on the application, which is a huge problem for him if, in fact, it is what actually occurred. The other thing is that he was truthful on the application, and he admitted all of this, drug abuse is the key phrase. And I think he certainly qualifies as a drug abuser based on what he's talked about on TV and in his book. If that is the case, there are some workarounds where he can be given special dispensation and he can be allowed in under waivers and so forth. But those waivers are very, very difficult to come by. And if he was granted a waiver, I think the expectation is, and the general consensus is, that there was probably some special treatment that he received, which would be not something that the average person would receive. And that's problematic as well. There's, as you know, a great deal of interest in immigration-related matters with respect to what's going on the southern border and so forth. And Secretary Mayorkas of DHS has just been impeached within the last week or so. And so this is just all wrapped up in one giant hairball. And I'll say again,
so it's safe to say he's screwed.
He's screwed. If he may be screwed, but if he's screwed, he did it to himself.
He screwed himself. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
And
well,
it's sad. It really is.
Yeah, well, look, he exactly everything all this drama that's been caused is him revealing too much information, private information. You're absolutely right. He just can't shut up. It's all as we make fun of right here. Wah, that's what he does. He can't stop complaining. So it's fascinating to hear that his complaining, his revealing of all this information is ultimately what could really screw him. So I'm excited. So later today, the hearing is at 2:30. There are not cameras in this. We can't bring cameras in, but we can bring people. We're going to try to get John in the door, and hopefully when he does, we'll be able to react afterwards. It does look like the Heritage Foundation will have a press release afterwards, so at least hopefully we can cover that if he doesn't get in. But we're going to do our best to get you in there, and if all goes well tomorrow, later today, we will be live here on the channel to bring you as much as we can. We'll start a little earlier. Wait as John's ready. How long do you think this hearing should take? What's your guess, John?
It really depends. It depends on how many questions Judge Nichols has of the attorneys on both sides.
And
they're going to present some what they call oral arguments, where they're going to make statements, and the judge is going to say, "Okay, I hear what you're saying. I've read all of this paperwork that you filed, and I have a couple of questions that I want to ask you about certain aspects of what you've written and what you've said." And as I said, it depends on how inquisitive the judge is. That'll really dictate how long the hearing goes.
But those questions will definitely help us make some decisions. But you don't think we're going to get an answer either way? They're not going to like throw out the case or demand that, you know what, you win. That's not going to happen this hearing. The judge will take some time to actually give us a proper response.
It's possible it could happen. And the reason that could happen is that there have been some motions, as I understand it, that are still pending for what they call summary judgment, which is where the judge comes in and says, you know what, there's no question of law here that needs to be decided. I'm just going to dispense with this and be done with it right now. It's possible that could happen. I don't think it's likely that will happen. He'll probably want to consider all the information that he hears tomorrow, along with the paperwork, the filings, the pleadings, and so forth, and then issue a written opinion at some point down the road.
I love it. Well, we will keep you as informed as we can. We're trying our best to get in there. So everybody stay tuned. Hit that subscribe if you haven't. Thank you again, John. Appreciate it. Great to meet you. Excited to work with you here. And we will be here later today to give you a recap. If we're not live, it might just mean we didn't get in. So please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I'm hoping to be live around 3:30 Eastern Standard Time to make sure that that the hearing has begun. We'll begin talking with you guys at the building, and then if all goes well and John then joins us remotely from the phone, we'll hopefully get to hear from him about what happened, and maybe even get him over to the court plaza to hear what the Heritage Foundation has to say as well. So stay tuned. Lots to happen. Excited to hear from you later today, John. Appreciate all you guys watching. Don't miss it tonight. We'll be here then again around 3:30, I hope, with an update, or at least after 4, we'll post a standalone update if there really wasn't much to say. But make sure you hit that subscribe and the bell so you get notified for when we're live. We'll be back later today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, John, and stay tuned for more here on Popcorn Palace.